everyone, and a very warm welcome to this edition of insideTauck. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dustin Smith, and I work here on the marketing team at Tauck. Again, thanks for taking the time to join us today from wherever you're logging in from, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night for you. For those of you joining for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who have been with us before, welcome back. It's great to see you again. We have another special presentation today, this time an education on diamonds and gemstones with our longtime partner, Clare Appleyard down in South Africa. This platform is insideTauck, is a new platform we created in our 95th year to celebrate that year and also connect with one another in this unfortunate time of non-travel. It's a way for us to show you the world's great destinations and give you some insight and expert knowledge from people like Clare. And we hope today provides you with some interesting nuggets and insight into South Africa and the diamond and gemstone culture and provides some inspiration for your next journey. Before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items. You're all on mute. If you do have questions, please post them in the chat and I will monitor that throughout. If you have any technical stuff, I'll try to get to that for you. At the end, we'll have some time to chat with Clare for some Q&A. Probably about 15 minutes or so. So we'll do our best to get to as many questions as we can. The entire presentation will last about an hour today. Clare is an absolute wealth of knowledge and may go a bit longer, but we'll try to stay on that hour mark with again, another 15 minutes or so for questions. Also, you'll see today that there is live closed captioning available for you if you'd like. You can toggle that on and off on the bottom of your screen by hitting show or hide subtitles. This lecture is being recorded right now, so if you do have to jump off or if you have any technical difficulties, this is being recorded and you can watch it probably starting tomorrow afternoon or next week. We'll get that up for you on our blog, The Taucker. And we're also streaming today live on Facebook. So again, if you have any technical difficulties, feel free to visit us on Tauck's Facebook page and you can see us there, or if you want to send a note to your friends or family who want to join last minute, they can join us on Facebook. So as mentioned today, we are joined by diamond and gemstone expert Clare Appleyard. But before we start, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to our Tauck product manager for the South African region, Kelly Rossiter. Kelly's been with us for 14 years and works very closely with Clare. So I thought Kelly could say a few words about South Africa and about Clare in general, and then we'll kick it over to Clare to start. So Kelly, over to you.
Thank you, Dustin. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, Clare. Thank you all so very much for joining us. And a special thanks to Clare Appleyard, our resident expert for today. My name is Kelly Rossiter. I create and with a very energetic team, manage all of our safari tours for Tauck. So we've been working with Clare since 2010 on all of our South Africa Elegant Adventure program. This is the Tauck excursion that starts with 3 nights in beautiful Cape Town. Then we spend 4 nights on safari in the Kruger National Park and the Sabi Sands area, followed by 2 nights in Johannesburg where we meet up with Clare. And it closes with 2 nights at the stunning Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. So yes, we meet Clare the day that we fly into Johannesburg, and we make our way to our little garden retreat in the middle of the city, the Fairlawns Hotel and Spa. I can say that Clare's passion for her work and her industry is probably only second to her passion for the city of Johannesburg itself. For me, Clare was an invaluable resource when we were redesigning our stay in Johannesburg and how to showcase both, the history of the city and to balance it with the new and exciting and more contemporary sides of the city. So, and that's really how she conducts her lecture. You're going to get a fascinating walk through some geological history, all the way up to the newest creations and discoveries in her field. So Clare has been working for the past couple decades in the diamond and platinum industry. She has a Master's of Science in Geology and Geochemistry. She's been published multiple scientific research papers in her time, working with De Beers and Anglo-American, and she is currently working as a gemstone trader, private jeweler, and private lecturer for Tauck. Her breadth of knowledge, honestly, is immense. And I learn something new from her every time I hear her speak. So without further ado, please meet Clare Appleyard.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And thank you, Dustin. I take it you guys can all hear me. Kelly, am I good?
Yes, you are great.
Excellent. So welcome everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Kelly, and thank you for the platform to both you and Dustin. It's been an interesting year, 2020, and I got to say, I miss the Tauck groups. You know, it's October, so normally we'd be in peak season. We'd be doing 2 tours a week, and we have nothing at the moment. So it's an absolute pleasure to be back with Tauck towards the end of 2020. And yeah, like Kelly said, my passion is absolutely Johannesburg and gemstones and gold, and it's a pleasure to be able to share that with you tonight. Johannesburg is very much a misunderstood city. There's a lot of people that book the Elegant Adventure Tour to South Africa, and they're a little hesitant about Johannesburg because you hear bad stuff in the news and you hear bad stuff in the press, and it's a very eclectic city. This is actually a skyline photo, one of my own skyline photos of Johannesburg, and to me it's a magnificent city at night. It has its issues, but it is the city of gold. So let's dig into that and see where we go. So if you're going to book the Tauck Elegant Adventure to South Africa, you can see right here a map of South Africa, and you're going to start your trip in Cape Town. You're going to start your trip at the bottom part of South Africa, which is truly one of the most magnificent parts of the world, and it truly is a beautiful city. And then you're going to go up to the top right-hand side of the corner of South Africa, and you're going to go on safari in Kruger. And then you're all looking forward to Vic Falls, and you're kind of going, well, why are we coming to Johannesburg? And Johannesburg has a lot more history than you probably give it credit for. So instead of focusing on Cape Town on the bottom left, and instead of focusing on the Kruger Park on the top right, we're going to focus on this area here that I've circled, and hopefully you can see with my cursor, which is Johannesburg and Pretoria. And these are the main cities in South Africa outside of Cape Town. And this is literally home to the diamond and gold industry of South Africa. So that's the area we're going to focus on. So Johannesburg is actually known as the City of Gold. Locally, we call it Igoli. So it's a local term, which means the City of Gold. And we literally only exist in Johannesburg because of the discovery of gold. And gold was discovered in 1886. So we go back 140 years in this city. And it was the discovery of gold on the Witwatersrand, which actually means white water reef. So if you translate it from the local South African language, it means white water reef, and it is the world's largest gold resource. And I'll show you a map now, which shows you just how large that area is. We are situated nearly 1,800 meters above sea level, which is 5,700 feet. So if you want to put that in terms that you can maybe connect with, it's the city of Denver. So our elevation in Johannesburg is pretty much the same as the city as Denver. And we're the only major city in the world that isn't built on a body of water. So if you think of other major capital cities around the world, you've got lakes, you've got dams, you've got rivers, you've got seas. Johannesburg has nothing of that. And the only reason, like I said, we exist is because we had gold discovered here. So what we're doing is Johannesburg is at the top end of a 400 kilometer, which is about 200 miles, golden arc, as we call it. And that golden arc was previously an inland lake. So if you can imagine, the entire inside bit of South Africa was millions and millions of years ago a lake. And it's now obviously been covered geologically, and it's all landborne. So the first gold diggings in Johannesburg started in a town called Ferreirasdorp, and that literally means Ferreira's town. That's the translation, and it was named after one of the gold explorers in the area, and this was in 1886. And after the discovery of gold, we had a massive, massive gold rush. So this was, I think, about 40 years after the California gold rush, but it was actually bigger than the California gold rush. We had far more people coming to Johannesburg looking for gold than we did there. On the bottom side of the slide here, you can see this very basic campsite that's starting to grow. And this was Ferreira's camp. And this was the start of the gold rush. And you've literally got a couple of little random tents here, canvas tents that people have put up as they started to stake their claim and as they started to dig for gold in Johannesburg. And the gold heritage in Johannesburg runs very, very deep, as I'm sure you can imagine. And if we look on the left-hand side here, this is actually a modern day photo of part of downtown Johannesburg. And you can actually see this big metal structure here is the head shaft for the entrance to one of the gold mines, which used to take miners down under the earth in a lift. So this is still part of the city of Johannesburg, that you can actually drive past this. And if you're on the Elegant Adventure Tour, they might sometimes take you past this side of town. This was literally the core where Johannesburg started. And on the right-hand side here is a photo of the entrance to the very, very first gold tunnel that was dug in Johannesburg, and it's now actually under one of the major banks. So on the surface, all you see is this big monstrosity of a building that houses one of our major banks. And if you go 2 stories down, they've actually built a little museum around this mine shaft entrance. And you can see here this little metal cart that was used to transport ore to the surface. That's maybe 1/2 meter wide. So it gives you an idea of just how narrow these tunnels under Johannesburg were. So if we go to that golden arc that I mentioned on the first slide, I'm going to circle Johannesburg here. Hopefully you can see with my mouse. Johannesburg is at the top of this golden arc. And literally this underground lake stretches 400 kilometers, which is about 250 miles to the southwest of Johannesburg. This area contains about 40% of the global world gold reserves, which is massive if you think about it. One 400-kilometer lobe is containing 40% of the world's gold. And up to the current dates, it's produced 2 billion ounces of gold. And if we look at all the gold produced in the history of the world, 50% of it has come from South Africa, which is huge. So if you are wearing jewelry at the moment, which I hope some of you ladies are, you've got a 50% chance of wearing South African gold. Now, we're not producing as much gold as we used to. There's been various economic factors coming into play. So we're currently producing about 5% of the world gold. But a lot of people don't understand just how difficult the mining conditions are underground. So if you're going to work in a gold mine, one of the South African gold mines, the temperatures are about 60 degrees Celsius, which is about 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and 95% humidity. I can only imagine that's what Florida is like in summer. 60 degrees Celsius, 95% humidity, crazy, crazy working conditions. And the reason the temperatures are so high and the humidity is so high is the depths of the gold mines. And we've actually got a gold mine called Mponeng, which is about an hour from the center of Johannesburg. This is the world's deepest gold mine. It is nearly 4 kilometers deep, 3.74 kilometers deep for you guys. That works out about 2.3 miles. And if you look here, this red arrow shows you how far the mine is. And you can see this blue line, this diagonal blue line going through this graph. That is actually the Gold Reef, the actual rock, the layer of rock that contains the gold. And that's going downwards at a 30-degree angle. So you might be going, how far is 3.74 kilometers deep? How deep is that? What's the concept? 10 Empire State Buildings. You all know how high the Empire State Building is. Imagine stacking 10 Empire State Buildings on top of each other. That's how deep underground this gold mine is. The workers that work at this level have a 90-minute journey from the surface of the earth down to the level that they're working at. 90 minutes in a caged lift with about 60 to 80 other miners. So the conditions are absolutely crazy. And this just shows you just how narrow, this photograph will show you just how narrow the gold tunnels actually are. This miner is bending over, he's almost bent double walking through this gold shaft. And the actual reef that hosts the gold is literally only about 30 inches wide. So that's about 60 centimeters wide, which is very, very narrow. The rock that the gold is actually in is 2.8 billion years old, which is almost half the age of the earth. So these rocks have been around literally since the earth, you know, half the age of the earth. I mentioned the 30-degree dip. So at any given time, that rock is dipping deeper and deeper and deeper away from the surface. And if you take the highest gold proportion in any of these reefs, in any of these gold-bearing areas, you're looking at about 25 grams of gold per ton of rock. So imagine that's like 2 tablespoons of sugar of gold per cubic meter of rock, which is crazy. So there's extortionate costs that come with extracting the gold and mining the gold, as I'm sure you can imagine. And a very common question is, well, is the gold just lying around in nuggets? Everybody's kind of seen footage in old movies of people panning for gold and finding gold nuggets, and that's not really how it happens. So on the top left-hand side here, we have what's called a conglomerate, which is actually part of the old lake or part of the old river system. And these big discs of mineral that you can see here, these gray lumps, these are all quartz. So quartz is the major constituent of this rock, and you can see maybe there's tiny little flecks of gold in there, and the gold is distributed between these quartz pebbles. So it's really hard to mine and extract the gold. And if we look at this diagram on the left-hand side here, well, let's go to the bottom left. Sometimes you get lucky and you'll actually see visible gold on some of the quartz ores, but that's the exception rather than the rule. If you look on the right-hand side here, and you can see this bottom yellow wedge under the conglomerate. So the gray is your quartz conglomerate. The bottom, you've got this wedge of yellow. And you might go, well, that's all gold. That looks like gold, right? But it's not. If you actually go to a reflected light image of that picture, none of this is gold. The actual gold is indicated by these little red arrows here. So there are minuscule amounts of gold per rock. So you have to process tons and tons of rock to get to the gold. And let's put that in a context that you can probably relate to in New York. So if you go down to the Rockefeller Center in New York and you look at the Atlas statue there, if you take the amount of gold that's mined worldwide across every single country that's mining gold on an annual basis, it's literally that cube fits in his arms. 5.5 meters across. That's the amount of gold that's mined on an annual basis. And at the current gold price, that works out to close to about $124 billion. But if we look at all the gold that's been mined in the entire history of humankind that we know of, and we put a block of that gold next to the Statue of Liberty, it doesn't even reach the feet of the Statue of Liberty. That block is nearly 21 meters across, or 69 feet by 69 feet, but it doesn't even reach the feet of the statue there. $6.8 trillion is how much gold has been mined globally in the history of mankind, and 50% of that has come from South Africa. So South Africa really has played a huge role in the gold market internationally. A lot of you know, obviously, that gold is used for jewelry. So what do we do with gold? 57% of it goes to the jewelry industry. 21% of it goes towards investments. And right now, if you're kind of going, what is the gold price doing and what's a good investment? The gold price has gone up massively over the last 5 years or so. So earlier this year, it actually broke through the $2,000 per ounce level. It's hovering at the moment around $1,900 per ounce. But if you'd invested in gold in 2016 or 2017, you've made an absolute killing now. It's going to be interesting to see what the gold price does over the next few years. There are some predictions it might go to $3,000 per ounce, which is crazy, but good if you have bought gold as an investment. So if we wrap up this part of Johannesburg, what does Ferreirasdorp look like today? And we started off with the canvas tents. That's how Johannesburg started. This area now on this top left-hand picture here where it says Mad Giant, that's what the original gold mining camp looks like today. And underneath the Mad Giant sign here is a restaurant called Urbanology. And Urbanology is the restaurant you will go to for lunch in Johannesburg when you book yourself on the Elegant Adventure Tour. Because I know you're going to book yourself on this tour, right? That's, you know, you have to come and see South Africa for yourself. So it's a fantastic restaurant. It's got an in-house brewery. There's some great graffiti on the walls. The food is very Asian-inspired tapas style. I know it's Kelly's favorite restaurant. It's my favorite restaurant. It's many of the tour guides' favorite restaurants. But literally when you come on the tour now and you go to lunch in Johannesburg, you are having lunch in the original part of Johannesburg that was the start of the gold rush, which is kind of cool from a historical perspective, don't you think? So that's gold. We've also got within South Africa the world's largest platinum deposit. So we've got gold and we've got platinum. The platinum area is actually northeast and northwest of Johannesburg. So the gold goes down to the southwest of Johannesburg. Johannesburg is here in this red circle, and this is the area we're looking at on the map right now. And we've got two lobes of basically what's called the Bushveld complex. And these are the richest platinum resources in the world. we're currently producing out of these areas in South Africa, just over half of the world's global platinum production. And we have 70% of all the known platinum in the world is located in this area, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Platinum is very heavily used in the jewelry industry as well. At the moment, the platinum price is cheaper than the gold price. So if you're looking to have any jewelry made, any bespoke jewelry made, it's cheaper to make it in platinum right now than it is to make it in white gold. And there's no doubt that platinum is the superior metal for a white metal when you compare it to white gold. The other major use for platinum is autocatalytic converters. So these are the converters in your cars that reduce the carbon emissions. So those are the two main uses of platinum. The Asian market is huge on platinum jewelry. They're not interested in yellow gold. They're not interested in white gold. Platinum is where it's at for them. And just on the top of this stack of rings here, you can see this is what an actual platinum nugget looks like. So it is a pure white metal. It's a very attractive metal. It's very hard to work with in jewelry, but it is definitely the winning metal at the moment as far as the jewelry industry goes. But if we have a look at how much platinum has actually been mined, and you remember that cube that we showed relative to the Statue of Liberty, platinum is a fraction of what gold has been mined over the history of humankind. Silver, there's been a huge amount. There's no shortage of silver in the world, and there's no shortage of silver that's been mined. 52 meter square cube there, that's bigger than the Statue of Liberty. But the platinum is a fraction of that. So it really is considered one of the more rare metals as far as precious metals go. So those are the two major metals that South Africa mines. And it's really been the backbone of our economy. And the other gemstone, or the other commodity that South Africa is well known for, of course, is diamonds. Everybody associates diamonds with De Beers, and everybody knows that De Beers is a South African company. But the very first diamonds actually discovered globally were found in India. And it was found in an area called the Golconda district. And it runs round about Hyderabad. So if you can see on this map here, you've got Hyderabad in the center south of India. And that whole area there was where the historical Golconda mines were. And there were diamonds being mined in Brazil as well, but they were exceptionally rare. And they weren't the domain of the common man. They were prized by royalty. They were prized by societal elite. And they were pretty hard to come by. And some of the most famous diamonds in the world have actually come from the Golconda district, including the Hope Diamond, which you can see here on the left-hand side. And that's that 45 carat spectacular blue diamond that has a very checkered history. It's supposedly got a curse on it, and it's currently in the Smithsonian Institute. So that and the Koh-i-Noor are two of the famous diamonds from Golconda. And that's really where diamonds were found. They were found in Brazil, they were found in India. And then in 1867, so this was 20 years before the gold rush in Johannesburg, in 1867, this rather handsome young gentleman called Erasmus Jacobs found South Africa's very first diamond. And it was a 21 carat brownish yellow pebble, and he found it in a riverbed. And when he found it, he was about 16 or 17. And he thought, well, that's pretty. And he put it in his pocket and he took it home and he showed his dad. And that turns out to have been South Africa's first diamond. That stone was cut and polished into a 10 carat stone. So when you're cutting and polishing diamonds, and we'll touch on this a bit later, you lose about 50% of the diamond. So imagine you've gone from a 20 carat stone to a 10 carat stone just through the cutting and polishing process. But Erasmus Jacobs finding that single yellow-brown little quail egg size, that started South Africa's diamond rush. And what happened is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of fame and fortune seekers made their way to Kimberley. And I'll show you just now where Kimberley is. But if you look at this black and white picture on the left-hand side here, this was the start of the diamond rush. And what these diggers found was that the diamonds were in a volcanic rock called kimberlite. And the town Kimberley was actually named after the volcanic rock kimberlite. So you can see here, all these lines here are all pulley systems that were shuttling men back and forth over this hole as they were digging up this rock, digging up this kimberlite to find diamonds. That hole ended up being 240 meters deep. It took 43 years, and it was entirely dug by hand. Can you imagine? 214 meters dug entirely by hand. And today the town of Kimberley is still there, it's still in existence. And the Big Hole is a great, fantastic museum. And they have a great lookout point over the end of it. But this was the town that De Beers started in. And De Beers formed in 1888. And it started with a partnership between Cecil John Rhodes and Barney Bonato. And what they started doing was buying up concessions and mining licenses from all the individual miners in this Big Hole area. And what that started was literally the demand for diamonds for the average man. So if we look now at South Africa, where diamonds are being mined, so Kimberley, this little blue triangle, this little blue diamond here, that was the start of the diamond rush in South Africa. And we've got literally diamond mines that extend from the north of South Africa down to the west coast. The only diamond mine that is currently owned by De Beers is this mine right here on the top northern border called Venetia. De Beers used to own all these mines, but they've actually sold them all because it wasn't economically viable for De Beers to run them anymore. But Venetia is the only De Beers mine in South Africa at the moment. And what we found from a geological perspective is that we could group these diamond mines into two different types. And the first type of diamond mine, I've made a circle with this red line here. And these are the primary sources of diamonds. These are the actual kimberlite rock that hosts the diamonds. And these diamonds have been brought to the surface by this volcanic eruption. So that's the one type of mine. The second type of mine is on the west coast of South Africa with this purple oval here. And these diamonds have landed here as a result of erosion. They didn't grow in the ocean. They didn't grow in the riverbeds. What's actually happened was erosion of these rocks over millions of years have transported the diamonds literally in the direction of the green arrow down riverbeds towards the coast. And these are now being mined on the sea floor, which is a kind of cool concept if you can get your head around that. So from a geological perspective, we wanted to go, what is special about this area? Why is it that all the diamond mines in this area are volcanic rocks? And what geologists found is that these diamond kimberlite pipes are all on what's called the Karpval craton. And a craton is the oldest building block of a continent. You can almost think of it as a nucleus of a continent, or the grain of sand in an oyster, and the pearl grows around that grain of sand. The craton is the building nucleus of a continent, and everything else has been added onto it. And what we found geologically is that these cratons are more than 2.6 billion years old. So they're the oldest, stablest part of the Earth's crust. And this craton doesn't just cover part of South Africa, it covers part of Botswana to the north here, and it covers part of Lesotho, which is an independent country down on the bottom right here. So both these countries have diamond mines with very good quality diamonds as well. So it all comes down to the geology. And these volcanoes that brought these diamonds to the surface of the Earth are between 80 to 100 million years old on average. There's some a bit younger, there's some a bit older, but on average in South Africa, the age is 80 to 100 million years old. And as this volcano literally forced its way through the Earth up to the surface, it brought the diamonds with it. Now, the diamonds grew in the mantle of the Earth, and I'll show you where that is now. But you have to understand that 80 to 100 million years ago, the Earth looked very different to what it does now. So if you look on this diagram here, you can see that the volcano would have erupted to the current landscape, or to the landscape as it was back then. 100 million years later, all that rock has been washed away, and the modern landscape surface is now sitting here, which is about 1 kilometer lower than it was before. But the erosion of the landscape has been different in different countries. So in Botswana, in our neighboring country, the erosion level has been very little because it's a desert country, really. In South Africa, we've had chemical erosion, we've had water erosion, we've had wind erosion. And in the Kimberley area, we've lost about 1 kilometer of kimberlite. And what that means is that all these diamonds that were in the top part of the kimberlite pipe are now on the coast. These are the diamonds that have been washed away by the rivers down, all the way down to the west coast of South Africa. And these are now being mined as alluvial diamonds. And it's the diamonds in the kimberlite pipe here that you can see at the bottom of the diagram that are the primary source of diamonds. But the diamonds don't actually grow in the kimberlite. They're almost like raisins in a cake. They get added to the volcano. So the diamonds are growing about 150 kilometers to 200 kilometers below the surface of the earth. So that's in the mantle of the earth, which you can see here on the right hand side. That's like an onion. The earth is like an onion. You've got the crust, you've got the mantle, and you've got the core. So right now we're sitting on the crust of the earth, which is very, very shallow in the grand scheme of things. The mantle is where your diamonds are coming from. The mantle is where your volcanic explosions originate. And that's about 120 miles below the surface. And what we found is that to dating the diamonds can be up to 3.3 billion years old, which means they are older than the volcano itself, which means that the diamonds existed before the volcano did. And those diamonds grow from carbon-rich fluids under super high pressure and temperature conditions in the mantle of the earth. Temperatures are about 1600 to 2300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not a temperature we can even comprehend. And the pressure, can you imagine the pressure 200 miles down, 120 miles down in the earth? It's about 5 to 6 gigapascals. But that's kind of a wacky number, and you can't relate to that. So let's put this in a cartoon-like context so we can think about this logically. How much pressure do you need to grow a diamond? The answer is 80 elephants standing on your big toe. So if you've been to South Africa on the Elegant Adventure, you would have gone to Sabi Sands and Lion Sands, and you would have seen African elephants in their natural environment. Can you imagine 80 of those elephants? That's an entire herd, a massive herd of elephants standing on your big toe. Your toe would be obliterated. That's the pressure you need to form a diamond, which is crazy. And you'll all know that we talk about diamonds in the context of carats, but where does the word carat come from? Because you've probably bragged to your friends about the size of your diamond, or they've bragged to you about the size of their diamonds, but nobody really knows where the term carat comes from. And it's got nothing to do with the carrots that I had at dinner and the carrots that you might be having at dinner in your time. And it actually has everything to do with the humble carob seed. Now, carob seeds are ubiquitous across Southern Africa, and they grow in these large brown pods, very dry, desiccated pods. And what the early diamond traders found was that each and every single carob seed had a very similar weight. So it didn't matter where the pod came from, it didn't matter which tree the pod came from, it didn't matter which seed in the pod they were talking about, each seed had a weight of about 0.189 grams. And that was what they started using to weigh diamonds. So how big was a diamond? Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carob seeds? And that carob became the carat. So the 0.189 got rounded up to 0.2 grams. And just to show you here, the analogy, 1 carat would be 1 carob seed, 2 carats would be 2 carob seeds, and so forth. So a 5 carat diamond is 1 gram. So basically 1 carob seed is 1 carat is 1/5 of a gram. So next time your friend brags about the size of her diamond ring, you can tell her that you know exactly how many carob seeds she has on her finger. She may or may not be amused. That's up to you to find out. So we're used to seeing diamonds in their cut and polished form, these beautiful, sparkly, jewels that we wear. But what does it actually look like when it comes out of a diamond mine? And most people think that any diamond that comes out has got to be spectacular in gem quality. And it's not the case. There are some kimberlites with diamonds that are not gem quality, and therefore they're not economic. So whether a diamond mine, whether it makes economic sense to mine a diamond mine or not, comes down to the percentage of gem quality diamonds. And if you have a look at this middle picture here, you can see right at the front, there's a cluster of very, very white, very, very perfect crystal stones. These are what we call octahedra. And the shape has got 8 sides to it. And the easiest way to think about the shape is to take 2 pyramids from Egypt and put them base to base. That's your perfect rough diamond shape. So the better the quality, the better the color of diamonds that comes out of a diamond mine, the more likely it is to be economic. And if you can see towards the back of this picture and on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, you'll see lots of black stones mixed in there. You'll see some brown stones mixed in there. So the better the quantity of gem quality diamonds, the more economic a mine is going to be. But how do we go from these kind of crystal shapes, or even a shape like this, to the beautiful cut and polished stones that we understand and we acknowledge? So on the left-hand side here is the second biggest diamond ever found, the second biggest gem quality diamond ever found. And it was found in Botswana in 2015, 1,109 carats. So it's about 200 grams, which is like half a block of butter. If you think about it, if you want to put that in the context, it's about half a block of butter. And that sold for $53 million in its rough form to Lawrence Graff. And what he did was he cut and polished it into a 302 carat perfect square emerald cut diamond. And we have a fantastic video from Graff Diamonds that's going to show you how this diamond gets cut and polished. It's a quick 2-minute video. There's no commentary. It's just music. But pay attention to the computer techniques that are being used in plotting this diamond. And then I'll talk you through it afterwards. Dustin, are you ready to go?
Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Dustin.
Back to you, Claire.
Getting there. All right. So I get goosebumps every time I see that video. I really do. It is just truly, truly magnificent. So some of the things you would have seen there is laser cutting of the diamond. So there's been some obviously great advances in technology that's allowed us to cut and polish diamonds more precisely than ever before. And laser cutting is one of those. But you would also have seen that the polisher was actually putting the diamond on a polishing wheel to polish the facets on it. And that is a traditional way of polishing diamonds that literally dates back hundreds of years. And what happens is you have a steel wheel known as a skife, and that skife is embedded with diamond dust and diamond grit. And you use diamond to polish diamond because obviously diamond is the hardest substance we know. It's the hardest gemstone we've got. So you would have also seen there was a bit of computer tomography going on there where you were mapping that diamond, where Graff was actually mapping that diamond to figure out where to cut and polish it to get the biggest return. So remember I said you lose about 50% of a diamond when you cut and polish it. So they've taken the 1,100 carat diamond and they've cut it into this 300 carat magnificent square emerald cut and then 66 smaller stones. And what you might have noticed as well is there weren't too many round diamonds being put in that computer graph. because round diamonds actually have more wastage than your fancy cuts when you cut and polish a diamond. So if you're ever buying a diamond, it's important to know that the round cuts are more expensive than the other cuts. So if we look at the global big diamond market, it's very, very rare that the big diamonds will be around. They'll be cut into an emerald cut or a oval cut or a cushion cut, for instance. The other thing I want to note on this picture here is that you might see that the surface of the diamond here almost looks like it's broken. It looks like a sheer glass plate, and it was. So what had actually happened was when this diamond was being extracted from the kimberlite in Botswana, it was broken into multiple pieces. The second piece they found was 830 carats. So this diamond should have been over 2,000 carats in total, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. So the thing about that Lesedi Lerona diamond is not just its size, it's absolutely massive, but its color as well. It's a D color. So let's look very quickly at the diamond color and clarity scale, because you all know about the 4 C's and we've talked about the carat weight now. So the GIA has put together an international grading standard for diamonds, and it's an alphabetical scale for the color. And we work on a scale from D to Z. And a common question is, what happened to A, B, and C? Which is a great question. A, B, and C used to be the average description of a diamond. So diamond was A if it was great, B if it was okay, and C if it was a bit meh. So when the GIA started their color scale, they started at D so there wouldn't be any confusion. As you move down the scale towards Z, or towards Z, as you would say, the price goes down because you're going from the top white color diamond to a slightly tinted yellow color diamond. Now, the diamonds at this bottom end of the scale are often referred to as champagne diamonds, which is kind of cool because they're not that expensive. So it's a bit of the champagne taste on the beer budget. So if you hear somebody saying that they have a champagne diamond, it sounds very fancy, but these stones are a very pretty pale yellow color, but they only go for a couple of $1,000s per carat. And the yellow in the stone is a result of nitrogen imperfections. And then if we look at the clarity, we've got flawless stones on the far left-hand side. That is the best clarity you can get. That means there are no imperfections in the diamond whatsoever. And imperfections are kind of like fingerprints. It's not a bad thing. It tells you that it's your diamond. It's a unique identifying factor for your diamond. And as we move from the flawless, we go through very, very slightly included. And you cannot see these imperfections with the naked eye, and you would be very hard pressed to see them with a 10 times magnification. It takes a highly trained professional to see the very, very slightly included imperfections. Your average commercial jewelry store will sell diamonds in the VS, very slightly to slightly included 1 category. A couple of imperfections, but you can't see them with the naked eye. And then we move to the imperfect or included categories, which is what the I stands for. And 5 years ago, nobody wanted these stones. Nobody wanted a diamond that you could see black inclusions in. You all wanted perfect. Everybody wanted perfect diamonds. Somebody started making some jewelry with these imperfect gray diamonds, started to call them salt and pepper diamonds, and they have literally exploded in the global marketplace. So if you have kids or grandkids that are online a lot of the time on Pinterest or Instagram, and they're talking about salt and pepper diamonds, and you're going, what are you even talking about? Now you know. It's the visually imperfect diamonds that nobody wanted 5-6 years ago. They are huge in South Africa, they are huge in America, and they're huge in Australia. The Asian market does not want anything to do with them. The Asian market is all about the perfect flawless stones in platinum, the king of metals. But the salt and pepper diamonds is a whole new marketplace out there. So just if you hear about them, you know what we're talking about here. And if we come back to that South African diamond area that I spoke about earlier, where Johannesburg and Pretoria is, this was where the biggest diamond ever in the entire world was discovered. And it was known as the Cullinan Diamond. It was called the Cullinan Diamond. And you can see the size of it here on this gentleman's hand. It was 3,106 carats, which if you divide by 5, it's about 600 grams. So it's a bit more than a block of butter. That was discovered in 1905. And the location, like I said, the diamond mine is about 60 miles outside of Johannesburg. And the owners of the diamond mine tried to sell this diamond for 2 years. And for 2 years, they had no buyers. So they decided that what they would do with this diamond, because nobody was wanting to buy it, was to gift it to the royal family. of course, at that stage, South Africa was a British colony. So the Transvaal government, which was the provincial state, if you want to call it provincial government at the time, gave it to the British royal family. That was cut into 9 separate diamonds. The 2 biggest diamonds that came out of that are known as the Cullinan I and the Cullinan II. And the Cullinan I is in the middle of this picture here. It's also known as the Great Star of Africa. It is 530 carats, which is massive. And it is in the scepter that is part of the crown jewel. So if you look at the Queen Elizabeth II coronation photo here on the right-hand side, this rod that she's holding is the scepter, and the diamond is sitting right at the top of that. And it's about the size of a chicken egg, which is not small if you consider it as a diamond size. The second biggest stone to be cut and polished there was this Cullinan II, or the second star of Africa, and it's 317 carats, and it's sitting at the front of the imperial state crown. So if you look at Queen Elizabeth here, she's got the scepter in her hand with the 530 carat diamond, and the crown with the 317 carat diamond at the front. So South Africa's best diamond was given away to the royal family. What can I say? But that Cullinan mine that produced the world's biggest diamond has also produced some very big and very historical diamonds. The Great Star of Africa is the one we've just spoken about. But if you look on the bottom right here, the Taylor Burton diamond was also found in this diamond mine in Cullinan. 241 carats of rough diamond. It was polished into 70 carats, cut and polished stone. The 600 carat centenary diamond was found in 1986. That came from Cullinan. But more importantly now is that Cullinan is actually the world's leading supply of blue diamonds. So the geology of that area was obviously unique enough that blue diamonds grew at a higher rate than they have in anywhere else in the world. And the most recent biggest sale was the Blue Moon, which was sold in 2014. And it was found as a 30 carat piece of rough, which is a big rough diamond, but it was cut and polished into 12 carats and 12 perfect, flawless, vivid blue. This sold for $4 million per carat. The price tag was something like $48 million for this diamond. So huge value in those blue fancy color stones. So let's change tack very quickly and go, what's the deal with lab grown diamonds? And I got a question for this talk 2 days ago already from a Tauck guest who wanted to know about lab grown diamonds. Her daughter had been looking for an engagement ring in America, and 2 of the 3 retailers that her daughter went to for an engagement ring had promoted lab grown diamonds. So there's a lot of misconceptions about lab grown diamonds. So let's start with what they're not and what they are. A lab grown diamond is not a cubic zirconia. A lab grown diamond is not a moissanite. Those are both artificial gems that are diamond simulants. So they simulate the appearance of diamond, but they're not diamond. Lab-grown diamonds obviously aren't as expensive as natural diamonds, and they don't have the value or the perceived value as natural diamonds. But what they are is 100% carbon, atom for atom, absolutely identical to diamonds that have come out of the earth, which poses a few problems. They have the same hardness, they cut the same, they polish the same, they have the same fire, they have the same brilliance, and they're about 50% less than natural diamonds. So there's a lot of confusion in the industry at the moment. There's a lot of younger people that are going for the lab-grown diamonds because they'd rather spend, huge amounts of money on a house or paying off the college debt rather than diamonds. There's other people that go, they would not dream of having their engagement ring or wedding ring with a lab-grown diamond, but they're happy to have earrings or a pendant or a necklace with lab-grown diamonds. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to you. There are ways to tell the difference, but you can't do it with the naked eye. And you need some fairly specialized desktop equipment in a jewelry store to be able to tell the difference between a lab-grown diamond and a natural diamond. And that's why certification is important. If you're going to buy diamonds at any stage, make sure it comes with a lab certificate from the GIA, which is the Gemological Institute of America, or the AGL, which is the American Gemological Laboratory, or the EGL, which is the European Gemological Laboratory, and just make sure that what you're getting is a real diamond. If you want to buy a lab-grown diamond, perfect. There's not a problem with that whatsoever. Just know that that is what you are buying. And ultimately, it's gonna come down to the consumer at the end of the day. So that pretty much wraps up the diamonds. We've spoken about where they come from in South Africa. We spoke about where they come from in the earth. But Africa has a very rich gemstone heritage outside of South Africa. And we're going to touch very briefly, just to wrap up this evening, on the other precious gems that are found around us in the Southern African and Eastern African countries. And the one that is absolutely unique to Africa is Tanzanite. You know, if we talk about diamonds, you get diamonds in South Africa, but they're found in Canada, they're found in India, they're found in Brazil, they're found in Russia. Tanzanite is found literally in one country in the entire world, and that's Tanzania, which is here on the east coast of Africa. It's a very unique gemstone. It has this spectacular blue-violet color that actually, it has three colors in it. It has the blue, it has the violet, and then it has a pink color to it. And it's totally unique in that color. There's no other gemstone that has that arrangement of colors in it. Most colored gemstones, including your rubies and your sapphires, are always heat treated. Tanzanite is heat treated as a matter of course. So what you need to know is that that heat treatment is permanent. So if you're buying Tanzanite at some stage when you're in South Africa or in Tanzania, the color is never going to change. That's going to be the color that's locked in for life. But the thing that I always want to make people aware of with Tanzanite is that it's a pretty soft gemstone. You know, we have a gemological hardness scale that goes from 1 to 10, and diamond comes in at 10 out of 10. Tanzanite actually comes in at 6.5 to 7 out of 10, which means it's softer than something like a stainless steel kitchen knife. So it's a spectacular gemstone. It's a beautiful gemstone. I always encourage people to put it in earrings or pendants. If they're going to put it in a ring, if you want to buy Tanzanite at some stage and put it in a ring, have it as a special occasion ring or a dress ring. There are some companies that have sold Tanzanite as an engagement ring stone, which I think is a bit of an embarrassment for the industry, because 6 months to a year down the line, that stone is going to take a bit of a beating. So absolutely buy Tanzanite, absolutely enjoy it, but just be a little bit careful if you're putting it in a ring. Rubies are the next gemstone we're going to talk about. And a lot of you probably think about Burma when you think about rubies. Burmese rubies are some of the best rubies in the world, some of the most prized rubies in the world, and one of the most, I guess, historical gemstones that we know of. But right now, our neighboring country of Mozambique here is producing more rubies than any other country. And there was a huge ruby discovery in the northern part of Mozambique in 2008. And this is literally recorded as one of the most significant gemstone recoveries of the modern era, gemstone exploration discoveries of the modern era. It is a huge, huge ruby mine. Ruby is great for everyday use in jewelry because it comes in at 9 out of 10 on the hardness scale. So diamonds are at 10, rubies are at 9. So ruby is great for things like your engagement rings and your wedding rings because you can wear it every day. It's very resistant to wear and tear. And what we found with these Mozambican rubies is that the quality is very similar to those found in the Burmese fields. So it's what we call a pigeon blood red color, which is this spectacular deep red color. You get rubies with some traces of pink color in it and some traces of purple color in it. But the pigeon blood rubies are just the spectacular red color. So there's some great ones coming out of Mozambique at the moment. So Mozambique is doing really well with the rubies. And these are starting to get recognized on the global market now, these Mozambique rubies. And they're being mined by Gemfields, the company there. And then if we move to sapphires, some of you might know, if you've been on the Elegant Adventure and you've been to my talk, that sapphires and rubies are actually the same mineral. They're both what we call corundum, but if it's red, it's a ruby. If it's any other color, it's a sapphire. So most people would think about sapphire as a blue gemstone. It comes in every color of the rainbow, like I said, except red. So this picture here will show you a blue sapphire, a yellow sapphire, and then a kind of a bluish green teal color sapphire, which is being called peacock sapphire at the moment, which is a beautiful color. So literally every color of the rainbow. And there's 4 main countries producing sapphires at the moment in Africa. We've got Madagascar, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Kenya. And great quality sapphires, especially the Madagascar ones. The Madagascar blue stones are spectacular. And again, because they're the same mineral as ruby, the hardness comes in at 9 out of 10 on the hardness scale. So again, sapphires are great for things like your engagement rings and wedding rings. So they wear really well over time. So if you have somebody who's looking for a blue gemstone for an engagement ring or a wedding ring, and then thinking about Tanzanite, just, you know, whack them about the head a bit and say, go with sapphire. Discourage them from the Tanzanite if that ring is going to be worn every day, and rather have them go for the sapphire. And then the last of the precious gemstones that we call them, that is currently being mined in Africa. I mean, there's hundreds of semi-precious gemstones, which would take all night to talk about. And I know you guys have lunch and things to go and do. But emeralds is the last of the precious gemstones. That is currently being mined in Zambia very, very extensively. There's some in Ethiopia, but the Zambian emeralds are starting to make inroads in the global market at the moment. You're probably thinking of Colombia when you think about emeralds. That's one of the best known countries. But Zambia has the world's largest emerald mine at the moment, and it's about 2 miles end to end. It's this open pit. It's about 2 miles end to end, which is absolutely massive. And a couple of years ago, there was a 5,600 carat stone discovered out of there, one single crystal. And you can see the size of it here in this picture, in this gentleman's hands. It's absolutely massive. It works out to about 2 pounds. It's just over 1 kilo in size. And it's not the biggest emerald ever found, but it's the biggest gem quality emerald ever found, which is hugely significant. It's been purchased by an Indian company, and we don't actually know at the moment if they're going to cut and polish it into various pieces, or if they're just going to keep it almost like as a museum legacy specimen, but absolutely spectacular. The Zambian emeralds have a slightly different green color to the Colombian emeralds. Might be hard to see to the sort of naked eye or the untrained eye, but the Zambian emeralds have more of a blue undertone than the yellowish grass green undertone of the Colombian emeralds, and they're a better clarity. So a lot of emeralds have a lot of imperfections in them. A lot of the Zambian emeralds are very clean. And of course, the cleaner the emerald, the less inclusions it has, the more expensive it's going to be. And some of the top quality emeralds can reach $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 per carat, which is equivalent to some of the diamond prices. The thing you want to watch out for with the emeralds, it's a bit like the Tanzanite, is that it's a fragile gemstone. It has some very distinct cleavage planes in it, which are the crystal faces. So you just want to wear it with caution. But beautiful gemstone. And again, Africa is at the forefront of that. So guys, that is the end of my talk for the Golden Diamonds. Thank you so much for joining us. I would highly encourage you to get yourself booked on the Elegant Adventure Tour. Cape Town is a city that you will fall in love with. The Kruger Park is amazing for safari. We have some fantastic tour directors on the South African tour. And of course, you'll get to Johannesburg. And now you know a lot more about Johannesburg, and you'll get to see how it's progressed historically. So Dustin, thank you so much. Any questions?
Yes, a ton of questions. Thank you so much, Claire. That was absolutely fascinating. I know for me, so I hope it was for everyone else out there who tuned in. So we'll do about 15 minutes or so of questions. So if people have to jump off, feel free. I know we're at that hour mark, but if you'd like to stay on and hear some answers to the questions you guys have been saying, feel free as well. I want to go back, Claire, I'm trying to structure this and how they came in. So we'll go back to gold a bit, and specifically the mining of the gold. There's a lot of questions about that. So one, how is it discovered when it's so deep down in the earth?
Right. So it was discovered obviously first off on the surface of the earth. So kind of, you know, and I'll be honest here and say gold isn't my strong point. The diamonds and the gemstones are my strong point, but it was discovered in riverbeds, and it was discovered as literally gold flakes in riverbeds. And that's the whole panning technique that we're all familiar with regards to, you know, the California gold rush and stuff. And what then happens is you need to find the source of the gold. So if you've got these flakes of gold, it becomes, where is the gold coming from? The gold had to have come from somewhere. So it's a case of almost backtracking in exploration to find out the rock and to find where the rock is that hosts the gold. And then what you start to do is literally dig, and you'll see, if you're in Johannesburg, you can actually see the angle of the rocks is very steep in the areas that was the Witwatersrand Basin, the ridges. So you can start to see these rocks going down at an angle. So it makes sense then that if that's the rock with the gold, you're going to have to start digging down and down and down. And then there's obviously a lot with geophysical surveys. There's a lot with drilling. So exploration of any mineral, whether it's gold, whether it's diamonds, whether it's copper, relies heavily on drilling down into the rocks, sampling the rocks, and mapping them out. Basically, it becomes a geological mapping exercise, for want of a better phrase.
Cool. Sounds intricate, but it's a good segue to actually another question about just mining in general. There was a question that came in about can robots actually go down and mine the gold or the diamonds, I guess, and has that ever been explored?
That is a good question, and I honestly don't know exactly. There's a lot of automated machinery in all the mining industries with regards to extracting the rocks. And it is, you can plot where the rocks are to a certain extent. So you can program those automated machines to dig to a certain level or to extract rock to a certain level. But as for robots, I'm assuming the question is robots going down instead of humans.
Right.
There's always going to be a human element because geology is not fixed. You know, stuff can change. There can be a fault line you don't know about. There can be a seismic shift that you don't know about. So my perception is that you'd still need to have a human element overseeing that. And of course, you know, the mining industry in South Africa employs about 400,000 people. So if robots did take over, South Africa would be a lot worse off from a job perspective. Let's put it that way.
That's a good point. One more question about mining. Do you know at all about how, you know, these miners who go down there are like protected from a safety measure, and is there any long-term effects on these people's health and that sort of thing?
So safety, health, and safety, health, and the environment is absolutely massive in mines. There are so many safety protocols to pay attention to. It's insane. And mines will track what they call the lost time injuries and how much time has been lost in injuries. And they make a big deal, obviously, about going X amount of time, X amount of man hours without an injury, or X amount of time without a lost time injury, or X amount of time without a fatality. So it's a lot safer now than it was previously. There is a lot of illegal mining actually goes on in South Africa. So if you've been to Johannesburg, or you're coming to Johannesburg on the Elegant Adventure Tour, you'll see a lot of mine dumps around South Africa, and these are the old extrusions of rock that were processed for gold previously. And there's a lot of illegal miners going underground in old abandoned tunnels. That's the bigger issue safety-wise, because they have no safety parameters whatsoever. Whereas your structured mines with your De Beers, with your Anglo-Americans, with your Harmony Golds, those kind of companies, safety is paramount to them. You know, it's never a good thing to lose a miner or to have any sort of injuries. It does happen, and it generally happens when people become complacent. Let's put it that way. You know, you're doing the same job day in and day out, and you forget to lock out the electricity, or you forget to do a simple task. That's where the accidents and injuries come in.
Yeah, understandable on that. Okay, let's shift to diamonds, your specialty. And well, I guess I'll go back to a question that came in, I believe, before we started, about just the simplicity of the allure of the diamond. So where did that fascination come from? Like, was there some sort of legend that they had different powers, or where did the value, like, where was that created, and why do people covet them so much now?
We could have a long discussion about value and perceived value and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, the original diamonds that were found were valued by royalty because they were pretty hard to find. They were faceted into stones that had beauty to them. Diamond has an inherent fire and brilliance that no other gemstone has. And if you facet that the right way, just the reflection of light and the sparkle and the scintillation is just magnificent. It just immediately draws the eye to it. What De Beers did was do a great job of marketing it to the common man. So what happened in South Africa was the diamond rush kicked off things so well that there was now an oversupply of diamonds and there wasn't enough demand because, you know, in the 20s and 30s, diamonds were perceived as those for the socially elite and the high society and the royal families. So what De Beers did was market diamonds to the common man in the way of engagement rings. And they've done a great job of that. Like I said, we can have huge discussions about value and perceived value and that kind of thing, but they are beautiful objects. There's no doubt about it. They are beautiful objects. Are they necessary? No, they're not, but they're stunning, you know, they're absolutely, no jewelry is necessary, but you know, we love it anyway.
It's really all about that marketing, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's the marketing is unbelievable. It really is if you dig into it. Cool.
Okay, well, they are beautiful. So that huge diamond you shared with the cut video we saw, do you know where that diamond is today? Does it exist somewhere? Is it in a museum, or was it sold somewhere?
Yes, no, it hasn't been sold. So it was finished cutting and polishing. I think Graf finished cutting and polishing it, if I recall, in about April last year. What Graf tends to do is keep pieces of a stone together. So a couple of years back, actually about 12 years ago now, he bought a 600 carat diamond from Lesotho, which is that little country within South Africa. And he cut that 600 carat diamond into, I think, 16 separate diamonds. And he's put them together in one necklace, because Graf believes that keeping those stones together kind of holds the story of the big gem. That necklace is still available for sale because nobody can afford to buy it. So the 300 carat stone, I don't know what he's going to do with that. That could stay in his private collection as a Graf stone, or it could go on auction at some stage. And it's the kind of stones that if it did go on auction, it would be, you know, the Sotheby's and the Christie's of the worlds would be auctioning it off.
Right.
And then it would likely end up in the hands of a private collector. But at the moment, it is still owned by Graf.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's get into different types of diamonds here. You touched on a couple, but we had a couple questions come in about pink, brown, black diamonds, chocolate diamonds. Can you shed some light on the colors and I guess the dessert style diamonds that exist here? The desserts.
I like that. So diamond colors are a result of imperfections in the diamond. So a white diamond, sorry, I just need to get more comfortable. A white diamond is pure carbon. When you have nitrogen incorporated into the carbon, it turns the diamond yellow. So the more yellow the diamond, the more nitrogen it has. If you have boron as a chemical impurity in the diamond, in the carbon structure, it makes the diamond blue. So that area of South Africa, that Cullinan Diamond mine, obviously had a high percentage of boron in the area where the diamonds were growing that led to those blue colors. Pink diamonds and brown diamonds are actually believed to form by the same process. And it's interesting because brown diamonds aren't considered very valuable, but pink diamonds are. And the fact that they both happen the same way is kind of ironic. And that's what we call a process called plastic deformation. And the best way to think about it is if you took a piece of Play-Doh, say you took a piece of Play-Doh in a square and you smeared that square between your hands. If you do that to a diamond, it goes brown. So that's called plastic deformation. You're literally smearing the crystal lattice in the diamond, and that turns it brown, but it can also turn it pink. Pink is the higher value, brown is the not so high value. The world's leading supply of pink diamonds is actually the Argyle mine in Australia, which is closing this year. So if anybody's thinking about investment, pink diamonds might be a good investment because the mine that supplies most of them is about to close down. And the chocolate diamonds are actually just brown diamonds. So if we go back to marketing, let's go back to literally where it all comes from. A company in the States called Levian decided to start marketing those brown diamonds as chocolate diamonds because chocolate just sounds more appealing than brown. So that's literally what it was. So the chocolate diamonds are actually your brown diamonds, and they can be spectacular. They can be lovely, lovely colors. Levian has trademarked chocolate, so the rest of us have to call them cognacs. So the cognac colors are pretty much the brown as well. That's just your desserts. So you've got your desserts and your alcoholic beverage afterwards, your chocolate and your cognac diamonds. And the same with the champagnes. The champagnes are the pale yellows, and it just sounds more appealing, you know. And black diamonds, sorry, black diamonds was the last one. Those are visibly imperfect diamonds. They have a lot of imperfections of black graphite, as well as iron oxide minerals like hematite and pyrrhotite in the crystal structure. And it's literally just blocking the transmission of light through it. So it's black literally because it's absorbing all the light with those iron oxide minerals in it. So a black diamond, a 1 carat black diamond, or let's call it this, a 5 millimeter black diamond will be heavier than a 5 millimeter white diamond because it's got that iron oxide component, which is heavy. So iron is a heavy metal. So the black diamonds are actually heavier than the white diamonds, which is interesting.
Champagne, chocolate, and cognac kind of sounds like a nice evening.
There we go.
Mix in a real diamond there, it'd be great.
I'll have to see if I can find some after I finish this.
A couple more here. So when the diamonds are cut, what is done with the surplus or the dust, I guess, from the diamond?
So most of the diamond is polished rather than cutting. So there is some cutting. You know, everybody thinks you're sort of lopping off corners and you've got these chunks flying off. So you're gonna cut and polish as much of the diamond as possible. You want to use as much of it as possible, but the actual polishing releases dust more than anything else. And that fine grit is what's used then on those skiffs and in the polishing pastes and the polishing lubricants. So when you're putting a diamond on that polishing wheel, you've got to have something to help lubricate the process. So suspension fluids with diamond dust in them, there's diamond embedded in that polishing wheel, and then pastes that you use as well, which have the diamond grit in it. So it's all recycled back into the cutting and polishing process. So there's no wastage per se.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Now, popular topic, obviously, due to the movie Blood Diamond. Can you, I guess, just talk about, does that still exist? It has the flow of the kind of blood diamond kind of been curbed, or is it still there?
No, it's pretty much been curbed. So the Blood Diamond movie, I think, came out in about 2004. I think I was still working at De Beers. And obviously from a trade perspective, we had big issues with the movie because there was, you know, Hollywood license and a little bit of creative storytelling that went with it. But the basics were that in the early to mid 90s, in certain parts of Africa, there were huge civil wars raging. Liberia, Sierra Leone was one area, Angola, the Central African Republic was another area. And what was happening was the warlords were using diamonds to basically fund the civil war. They were using the diamonds to fund their arms. And people were being killed, people were losing their lives, people were losing limbs, and it was tragic. There was huge issues. In 2000, the World Diamond Federations got together in Kimberley, which is that part of South Africa, and put together what's known as the Kimberley process, which is a certification scheme for the legal import and export of diamonds and the tracking of numbers of diamonds and the carats of diamonds worldwide. That's now been I think that came into play in about 2003. So it's been going for 17 years. So it's now estimated that there's possibly less than 0.5% of diamonds worldwide that might be those conflict diamonds. We've also got to look at the fact that the civil wars have mostly ended. So all those countries that were involved in the civil wars are now pretty much at peace. I saw somewhere a couple of days ago that somebody in the States had actually been arrested for forging a Kimberley process certificate. So he tried to import diamonds into America illegally, and he was trapped by the FBI basically. So it's taken very seriously. The bigger issue right now that people don't really know about is called conflict minerals. And these are what's called the 3 T's, T for titanium, but it's actually tungsten, tantalum, and I can't think of the other one, and gold. And they're all being mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the DRC in Africa. And potentially every single one of us on this call could have supported the conflict mineral industry because we have cell phones and laptops. And those metals are all used in the manufacture of those technological gadgets. The only company I know of that is guaranteeing that its computer chips are conflict mineral free is Intel. So at the moment, that's the bigger issue. And people aren't jumping up and down about it because it's not glamorous. You know, the global witnesses of the world aren't hanging their hat on it because everybody needs cell phones and everybody needs laptops. So diamonds were kind of a convenient scapegoat, for want of a better word. And there were issues, there were huge issues, but it has been cleared up now. But you know, if you want to get stuck on something, I would say get stuck and investigate the conflict mineral issue now. That is the bigger deal right now.
Interesting. Cool. All right, one last one here that I'll finish on because I think it's an interesting topic and there's a lot of questions about it. The differences between, you know, the lab grown and the natural diamonds. The question though is, has the advent of kind of the lab grown diamond hurt the production of natural diamond or hurt the sale of it in any way?
Not yet. And I use the word yet very loosely because it may not get to that stage. The bigger issue that's affected diamond production this year was obviously COVID. You know, like De Beers' sales in April and May were, I think, about 5% of what they'd been last year. So lab-grown diamonds are definitely growing. They're definitely being marketed more. You've got people on both sides of the fence. You've got people that are like, if it's not 3 billion years old and grown in the earth, it's not a diamond. You know, if it's 6 weeks old and grown in a pressure container in California or Russia or India, how is that a diamond? But they are starting to make inroads because I think there's been a shift in consciousness to a certain extent, and the millennials now, to coin a phrase, are not necessarily as materialistic as people were in the 90s and not spending the kind of amounts of money that they were on diamonds, because De Beers was marketing that, you know, a diamond engagement ring needed to be 2 to 3 months salary. And now people have realized that that's absolute rubbish and not really a great benchmark. So there's a move towards the lab-grown diamonds. It hasn't affected global natural diamond production. What is happening is the price of lab-grown diamonds is coming down. So as technology improves, that price has dropped. So what you're paying for a lab-grown diamond now is a fraction of what it was 3 years ago. And that then becomes the bigger issue, because then it becomes, well, is there any value in them? You know, if the price is dropping, where's the value? Whereas the natural grown diamonds are still holding their value to a certain extent.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Claire. We could stay here all night and answer all the questions here. But I apologize to those questions we didn't get to. But I will kindly ask Claire to answer those, right answers to those, and we'll put them up on our blog post page within the coming days, so you guys can see those. So thank you again to everyone. Thank you to Claire. Thank you to you, Kelly, for joining us today. And we really appreciate your time. And we hope to be out there traveling soon. It'll come sooner rather than later, where our hopes are. So thank you again, and look out for some more invites for some other events coming up the rest of this month and into November.
Thank you.